Yeah, Shamar always gets mad at me. So welcome to the Freemium Podcast. I'm going to reluctantly give an official introduction. I just don't like having the intro. But anyways, welcome to the Freemium Podcast. We got Curtis Killen. We got Joey Steben in the house. Thank you for coming over.
My pleasure.
Joey's a CPA. He and two other partners own a cloud accounting firm called Zen Accounting. And then you also work as the head of finance for Boundless Life, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So thank you so much for coming by. We're going to get into
Thanks
this.
for having me.
We've actually been on a roll already before this started. We've been talking about some stuff. He's had some stories. I'm like, dude, let's...
Some juice.
Yeah,
some
let's...
juice.
Like, I go, dude, tell that story in the fucking podcast, man. He goes, all right, we'll do that. But
client confidentiality.
Yeah,
is
yeah,
something
of
I have
course.
to abide by.
We don't have to say names.
No,
It's
no
just
names.
like, yeah,
No names.
don't have to say names. But yeah, man, I really appreciate you coming out.
Thanks for having me.
So I've known you for a while. I went to school with Sarah. I went to Abbott with Sarah Steben, your younger sister,
Indeed.
at John Abbott.
Yep.
And I've known I know we never were really friends. We didn't hang out and stuff, but we were acquaintances for 15
mutual
years.
connections. Yeah.
About that,
I think
15,
we
20?
went out a couple times together at the Q, if I'm not
Oh,
mistaken,
God.
if my memory jives.
Yeah, you were always there with Steve and Nick.
Yeah.
I would always remember you guys as
in the back corner.
You still hang out with them though, right? You guys are still close friends.
Steve, I'm friends with, but we don't. We're not hanging out all the time. But Nick's gonna be in my wedding party. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
And we go to Atwater Club together.
Yeah, Atwater Club is. I'm gonna plug that in right now.
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you play squash or
Marketing plug.
rackets, like, it's so
Great.
fun.
Wherever this goes, great value for money. You also get the
Yeah.
classes.
Yeah.
It's a great place.
To be honest though, I find it getting just a tad too busy sometimes.
Well, you know what month it is. It's January, so everyone's got their new
Yeah, you're right.
their
You're right.
resolutions,
You're
and
right.
it'll trail off eventually. I think.
I
Get
hope
back to
so.
the right- Yeah.
I like it. I like having a good energy in the gym when you get into the gym.
Yeah.
But not too packed where you can't use the machines and you're trying to get to the showers. All the showers are taken, stuff like that. That gets a little annoying.
the locker rooms too.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a traffic jam.
Yeah,
so.
it gets chaos.
Yeah.
It gets chaotic from
Yeah.
time to time.
I am sore from a workout yesterday as well. Anyway,
What did you do?
HIIT class.
Dude, those
And then
are...
I went to go play soccer, and I'm learning that at my ripe age of 35 is that a workout before soccer is actually beneficial, rather than going straight from work and going into soccer. At least for me, you work out before your muscles are ready to go, and huge performance last night. Huge
Great.
performance.
Did you score a goal?
No, 2 assists.
Two assists.
Yeah, I played the back, so
You were a good soccer player growing up, right?
I was, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I played pretty high level.
What position were you?
I was all over the map, man. I started to center midfield, played up front, and then I went through a knee injury, I think, and started playing at the back, and then I had a knack for playing center back. And since then, that's where I've been.
What was your opinion on the World Cup this year?
Fantastic. It was for me. I was spending a couple. I was with a few buddies over at Kelly's, I think, for the final.
Uh-huh.
It was the best game I don't get that emotionally attached to soccer anymore, and I don't know. There was like electricity, and it was just nuts. It was absolutely nuts. And I'm happy we witnessed history.
Yeah, that too.
That's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah.
He finally got what he deserved. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Messi winning, but just Messi and Mbappe. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah.
Mbappe.
Yeah. Kylian.
I mean, I don't even like soccer. I don't watch soccer ever. I'm not going to pretend to be a fan, but I think everyone, Joey, the other Joey, the videographer, did you watch the World Cup game?
Yeah.
I mean, and
insane.
that's probably the first time you've watched a soccer game, what, 5 years?
Yeah.
It was for me.
You won't catch a better.
It was
final.
insane.
Yeah.
It was insane. I couldn't believe. I go, am I watching soccer right now? This feels like a football.
It was nuts.
Shootout right now.
The table that I was sitting at, we were all rooting for Argentina because of Messi and all that sort of stuff, and we had a table in front of us rooting for France, and we were respectfully, chirping one another,
friendly banter,
and they were yelling when they would score, and we were like, anyway, it was absolutely.
There's a guy, Austin, right over there. So he's actually from Argentina.
Oh wow! They partied for days. I heard. I saw him.
He came into work. First of all, he took the Monday off.
Yeah.
As soon as he found out that they were in the finals, he goes, "Bro, I'm taking the Monday off." Didn't even ask. Just like I'm taking the Monday off.
It's religion for them.
Yeah. And then the Tuesday comes in, so he comes into the office. He doesn't have a voice. So I found that.
Yeah, I mean, the party must have lasted for days. It's crazy.
Yeah.
No, it's good for them. It's
Yeah.
good for them.
I'm
good for the
happy.
country.
So back to business.
Back to
now
business.
we talk about what's so you're an accountant, you're a CPA.
Yes, a CPA auditor by trade. Yes.
Okay. How'd you get into, let's start from the beginning. Why accounting? Because accounting, and this is also interesting, a lot of times accountants, in my experience, they're pretty boring people. Yeah. You're not like that. You're interesting.
No, I'm covered in tattoos.
You're not a typical accountant, or you don't look like one. You don't act like one either, actually, to be honest.
No, I mean, I've been told that before. If I go back to, when was it? What I was going to do in university, I suppose. So I was at Abbott. I was always good at math. I'm not a math star, and you don't need to be a math star, by the way. That's like that's not what accountants are all about. It's kind of like more rules based and sort of.
Yeah, it's just memorizing rules, I think, right?
Yeah, and then being able to do research and having good business judgment and all that sort of stuff. But I think there was a time in which I had to decide what I wanted to apply to, and I applied to be a physical education teacher.
Interesting.
And I applied to be an accountant. Well, take my BCom and with the major in accountancy. A McGill for phys ed and at Concordia. And then my mom was like, well, if you want to be a phys ed teacher, then you should go that route. And my dad was like, if you want to make money, go into accounting. Yeah. And at that point in my life, I think I was 18, 19. I didn't care about anything else but money.
Yeah.
So I went into accounting. It ends up being that I always have a knack for helping people, and I use that to I used accounting to, one, help my dad with his small business. As much theory as I could give him from the books that I was reading, I would try and give it off to him.
What did your dad do, or what does he do?
Well, he had a roofing business. Okay. He was manufacturing as well, so manufacturing steel roof panels. Okay. And installing steel roofs, right? So
for residential homes?
Yeah, for residential. Okay. I think he did a couple commercial jobs. Yeah. So that I was doing that part-time. I was actually substitute teacher as well. Okay. At St. Thomas.
I think I remember that, you being a substitute
teacher.
Yeah,
myself, Kyle Miller, and Kevin McRae.
Yeah.
So we were subs. I was doing that, and I was coaching soccer all at the same time while going to school. So I was trying to help my dad out with respect to business logic, business advice, accounting, and my dad, we're pretty stubborn people, so he would just tell me, okay, thanks, and then move on.
But secretly, he probably listened to you.
A little bit.
He didn't want to give you the.
Well, yeah, it's sometimes it was his way or the highway sort of thing. But as a business owner and entrepreneur, that's kind of ultimately the decision lies with you. You can take as much advice as you want. Yeah. But the route is your own at the end of the day. Yeah. So I mean, I went into accountancy mainly for money, to drive myself towards a good career and all that sort of stuff. But along the way, I've always been, coaching in soccer, helping my dad, and I decided that I was going to use accountancy to help people in small businesses, either one, make sound decisions for their business, but two, ultimately to put bread on the table, because at the end of the day, if your business is successful and you have that financial freedom, well, you're able to do things that you wanted to do in life and hit those sort of like financial goals. So accountancy to some degree is the language of business.
It's very interesting that you're saying that, because a lot of business owners, so I'll take a classic example of Walt Disney. So Walt Disney was the brain behind creating Walt Disney, behind creating Disney World and all that kind of stuff back in the day when they were just starting off. A lot of people don't know this. His brother was the numbers guy. He was an accounting or finance, one of those two, but he understood numbers. Yeah. And so basically, because the brain behind all of it, Walt Disney, he didn't care about numbers. He just wanted to do everything, right? And the brother would be there going, yes, you can do this. We have enough money, or we have enough runway. No, you can't do that right now. We don't have enough cash. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure we can get into this. I'm sure you get that all the time, because a lot of business owners are not that good with money, to be honest, especially if you're on the creative side and you work in particular industries. They're really good at branding, and they might be good at marketing. They might be good at that stuff there, but they're not that good at numbers. And a lot of them don't like to admit it. Mm-hmm. That's the other part. Mm-hmm. So, but it's very interesting that you're saying this.
Entrepreneurs are visionaries, super creative, very, very smart people. But every single decision that you make as an entrepreneur also affects accounting and affects numbers, and everything translates. The whole story of a business moves into numbers, no matter what people think. And at the end of the day, you can have the coolest idea of all time, But if you can't monetize that idea, well,
Yeah.
your business is going to fail after you run out of cash, essentially.
Yeah.
Right. So accountants are, I like to think of myself as a bit of an entrepreneurial accountant. Obviously, with what my history is that is true. But I try and balance the force, essentially, where if I have to say no to something, I will, and I try and explain why we have to say no. But if there's a business rationale around it, it costs a bit of money, but I know there's going to be an ROI. I'll say, okay, well, we're a bit short on cash now, but I know that it'll pay off down the road, and it's not going to affect the business to the point where it's going to shut the doors, right? So let's go. So I'm not like this ultra conservative. I try and understand their point of view. But sometimes you also have to say no.
For sure, yeah. And most accountants, I'm happy you said that. A lot of the fact that a lot of accountants are conservative, they do have a conservative view, because what is their job? Their job is essentially to preserve capital.
Yeah, assess risk, preserve capital,
Yeah.
and generate value for the shareholder, which is profitability. And how do you do that? You bump up revenues, you cut costs, and it's simple to some degree, but yeah.
Interesting. So it sounds like, by the way, you're very good at talking. You're very good at explaining. Yeah, no, this is great.
I mean, the traditional view of an accountant is they sit there and they type numbers all day, right?
They're the worst.
Well,
I sound like I'm racist to accountants right now, but I'm not actually.
Look, you have. I mean, we can go off on a bit of a tangent.
I
think the profession is changing. One, because of technology. So it's driving people out of the profession. It's extremely hard to find good professionals these days.
Yeah,
and that's bookkeepers are not titled.
Yeah,
but it's hard to find good bookkeepers all the way through to good CPAs. I don't know what people are doing.
Also, too, just to cut you off there for 2 seconds, I was listening to this podcast again, the All In podcast with Chamath Palihapitiya and a couple of other people. But he was saying AI is going to do all this in 5 years. Like for bookkeeping.
So
you would know more about this than I do.
I'm in this space.
Sure.
No, maybe not. But like, I mean, I will argue that it's not 5 years.
Okay.
I think it's longer than that.
Okay.
So if you look at cloud accounting and all of these different applications that are coming out, and there's a lot of.
Can you explain to us before you go on? Can you explain to us exactly what cloud accounting is?
Yeah, I mean, I'll do my best. You'll have. Your desktop version of QuickBooks.
Yep.
Okay. And you'll have the online version of QuickBooks, where on your desktop, all the information is stored there, specifically on hard drives. In the cloud, it's on drive somewhere, but it's in the cloud, right?
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know. Everything's online, virtual. Like cloud accounting to me is online virtual accountants, where you're having meetings via Google Meet or Zoom. You're using cloud accounting technology. You're very tech savvy. You're sort of like this modern day accountant, sort of like me. Whereas, the traditional idea is that it's like I said, you're this guy who's buried in their cubicle doing this and that.
Crunching numbers all day with a calculator.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Cool.
So, but to go back, I think the lower value stuff that people see as lower value. Bookkeeping is essential to everything, by the way.
Of course, yeah. Of course.
It's valued low and I don't know why, because at the end of the day,
it's a very mundane task. It's very
and yes, so it can be automated, but I think it's still a ways away. I don't know if we can do this, but there's a company called BotKeeper. Mm-hmm. And their idea is to automate bookkeeping as much as possible. There's a bunch of other ones out there, but BotKeeper is a leader in the industry and a leader in the space. They have metrics in which what has been done by a robot, I guess, and what has been done by a human, and there's still a lot of human intervention. Now, the way that tech goes, 5 years maybe, I'm going to say more 10 to 15, where it's completely no human interaction.
It'll be A to Z.
And I mean, that's part of what we do. We're trying to create, but we have to create supplier rules and make sure that the tax rate is there. So
that's what who's trying to do.
Well, there's tech out there. So some of the tech stacks that we use.
But you're talking about Zen accounting right now,
Yeah, Zen accounting and cloud accountants in general. So
So for those of you, just to kind of like rewind a little bit, for those of you that don't know, so Joey and two of you, who are your partners' names?
Hassan and Robert.
So they started a cloud accounting firm called Zen Accounting. So
So we didn't start it.
Sorry.
Whatever.
Okay,
It's
so
okay.
I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where we are on
I had
our
to
path, but
plug you in there.
Yeah. No, I appreciate the marketing plug. No, I mean, I'll go to the beginning. So to go back to my career, I suppose, to some degree. So,
Sure.
I mean, I'm an auditor by trade, right? So I did my audit stint 3.5 years at Baker Tilly, formerly known as Collins Barrow. Okay. And then I'll do the whole spiel, but what happened there? I wanted more forensic work. Okay.
What's forensic work?
So forensic accounting, more investigations, more, I suppose,
you want to catch
trying to catch the bad guys.
The bad
you know
guys,
what I mean?
yeah.
You know?
Okay, cool.
So when I went to one of the partners who I was working under to ask for hey, can I get into this a little bit? There wasn't enough work at that specific firm. And at that point, I had reached out to someone who had moved from then Collins Barrow to EY. I think she was one of my mentors at Collins Barrow. Point being is that there was a spot available as a senior.
Was this a small accounting firm, a big one? Or?
Baker Tilly is like a mid-size.
What's mid-size? 50 people?
That specific firm, I think, we were about 50 to 65 people in audit, bookkeeping, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. But your traditional bookkeepers, right, where you're at a desk and you're punching in stuff manually. So not using those apps. So I moved to EY as a senior in forensics. So we'll talk about that afterwards. After EY, which wasn't for me, it's kind of like big corporate for accountants, right? And I'm more into small business entrepreneurial stuff. I decided to go into industry, is what we call it. So public practice is your accounting firm and an industry, as a controller at a wholesale company. I did a stint there, and I felt like I needed more mentorship. Work under a CFO, etc. You were
on your own at this place.
Yeah, I was kind of like the right-hand man to the two business owners, and I it's not that I was incompetent.
Yeah.
I knew what I was doing, and I had a good sense. People compliment me for my sort of like my rational thinking and my business logic and that sort of stuff. So I was applying all that sort of stuff in industry, but I was fresh. It was my first stint as a controller, right? I was like 28. I don't know. I had learned a lot from audit. So you learn a lot
at Ernst & Young.
Well, yes and no. That's more forensic, bribery, corruption, collusion.
Okay.
At Baker Tilly, when you go into an audit, depending on the length of it, in terms of like private enterprise, small business, you get to learn the mechanics of a business in relatively decent depth in a short stint of time. So
can you just because a lot of people aren't going to know this, so can you just say what the different levels of auditing are? Because you got an audit, review, engagement, and can you just explain that quickly for business owners that aren't familiar with what this is?
So there's 3 levels. There's compilation, formerly known as a notice to reader. I think they just changed the rules last year.
That's the shittiest one, right? That's
you can call it the shittiest one. It's the one where there's no opinion given by the CPA.
Okay,
right? So there's no opinion. So it's like, here are your financials. We've signed off, but we're saying there may be some bullshit in here, right? A review is the step up, right? So there is like a version of an opinion, but you're not giving assurance necessarily. I think it's called negative assurance. Now I'm going back into my theory. I don't really remember. And then audit gives you a formal audit opinion where and it depends on the types of testing, I suppose, at the end of the day. In a review, you're asking questions, you're doing some calculations. Is it plausible, not reasonable? And I haven't audited in years. I hope this is still the same terminology. But then in audit, it's reasonable, not necessarily plausible. So you're doing more in-depth testing to make sure that the line items that end up tying into your financial statements are not bullshit, right? Can I swear here?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you can swear as much as you want. Okay. Why would someone... So, for example, like we're an insurance broker. We have approximately 30 employees, let's say. I only need a review engagement. So no one's ever going to ask me for more than that. If I'm a company, if I'm a business owner, if I'm not a publicly traded company, do I need to get a full audit or not really?
No,
you don't.
So if you're not publicly traded, the reason why you would want to get an audit is, one, because you don't trust people inside the company. So you want to get, better reassurance that someone's not committing fraud. I think that's probably the main reason.
Interesting. And then, I didn't know this.
Yeah.
Can you say that again? So why, if you're not a publicly traded company, why would we get an audit? Repeat that. That's a good point.
So let's just say I'm the owner of a business and I'm not really hands-on day to day. I'm kind of disconnected. I don't know. I'm in Barbados and the business is running itself.
Yeah.
I'll have maybe, a controller or director of finance. I'll have an accounting team. I'll have my director of operation. People are running the show essentially, and I'm collecting checks.
Yeah.
If I am completely disconnected, and perhaps, if I'm looking at my cash balance or I'm looking at my financial statements, my internal financial reports on a month-to-month basis.
As a business owner.
Yeah, as a business owner, because give me all the reports and I'll take a look at them.
Yeah.
If things don't make sense or things don't seem to be what they are in reality, and I have this lack of trust, or maybe I'm a bit skeptic, then I'll be like, okay, I'm going to go hire financial statement auditors to take a look at things.
I'm suspicious of someone.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
cool.
I mean,
Didn't know that.
Yeah, some people will do that. And then, the other reason why, and maybe this is for you as well, is if you have a lending facility with a bank, the bank might require either an audit or a review. Most of the time, if you have a line of credit or some other form of lending facility, you're going to require a level above a compilation for your financials. And that's
Got it.
yeah.
So now let's go back. Now we're back on Zen Accounting.
Yeah, I forewarned you. I go off.
Yeah, he's like Curtis, by the way. I'm like all over the place.
Yeah.
So I'll try and keep you in a line.
Yeah.
So went back. So you started your stint at Baker
Tilly.
I keep wanting to say Baker Mayfield. Baker Tilly. Then you went to EY. Then you had a little stint as a controller at a distributor or a wholesaler.
Small business, and then I moved over to Squish, like I said. So at that point, I was
Squish is candies. They're the delicious candies. They sell them at Mandy's and all those places there.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So my idea there was I wanted to have a form of mentorship to work under a CFO. Right. I needed a coach to make sure that the decisions that I was making were not batshit crazy.
Can you give us an example there? Because this is my thought process right now. It's that, so as an accountant, at the end of the day, you're just looking at numbers. What's there to mentor you about? It's just numbers. You know what I mean?
Well, I like to gather ideas and different ways of thinking. That's always how I've been, and I will always have. I've always, and this is personal, but there will always be a level of self-doubt to some degree that maybe there's something I don't know. That okay, I'll either research it or maybe you can coach me. Maybe there's something I don't know, and because I was such an integral part of that small business that I was talking about, and I was feeding in information. And
how many employees were there?
25.
Okay, so this is a super hands-on.
Yeah. Like
okay.
I was the controller, but I was also the CFO. You know what I mean? And so the decisions that I was making based off of the numbers and like the ratios that I would calculate and all these sorts of things, that business struggled. It was a very successful business, and then it struggled for a certain period of time before I had come in, and the decisions and the analytics that I was feeding into the owners, there was that level of self-doubt because I hadn't ever done industry before. I hadn't ever been a controller before. So as confident as I was like, maybe there's something I don't know that could help them, right? And
because at that point there though, that's not a normal thought process of an accountant. You're thinking like a business owner at that point almost.
Yeah, I like to, even with where I'm at now, and even with my clients, it's like I try and put myself in their shoes. It's interesting that we're talking about this because this story actually translates to why I'm doing what I'm doing now. And I just connected that. So I think this is just who I am as a human. But yeah, so
there's connections all over the place.
Like at the end of the day, I felt like I needed to be, and I consulted for them after I left, and I stayed on the side to say, listen, I'm going to still help you guys out, but I need to get coached because I want to make sure that my decision making and my ability to better myself as a professional ultimately. Because if I'm going to give you advice, I better well believe that I have to believe in it, one, and it better be as close to right as possible, right? So if there's any level of self-doubt, I need to better myself. So that's what I left.
Would an example be, can you give us an example, like for, would they come up to you and just say, hey, we're thinking of deploying X amount of money in capital expenditures. We want to buy this equipment to sell these additional products and make this much more revenue. What do you think? Can you give us like a more, like a specific example?
I mean, I can generate one, but like at that specific business, I think there was some lease versus buy decision making that had to be done. Okay. We were looking at buying a building versus like leasing. So that's something that I'd done it in school, right? So
yeah. So what's the math that you do behind that?
Because you have to do an NP. It's corporate finance.
But this is a great question, by the way. Let's stay here just for a second, because a lot of people say that, hey, I'm expanding my business. Do I buy this house, or do I buy this building, or do I lease this building? So can we stay here? Let's.
Yeah, we can. I'm not an expert in it. Like, but like you have to do an NPV analysis, make sure that it comes down to cash flow to some degree as well. What's affordable, what's not. But ultimately, you want to make sure that how do I even put it? That it's the right thing to do. And I mean, if you're leasing, I'm just thinking off the top of my head here. There's so many things that are coming into my head at the same time. What cash flow's one, and I always focus on cash.
Yeah.
So if you're going to buy something, you have to do an analysis ultimately, and it has to generate the right return for the business.
Got it.
Okay. That's clear. But then you have to think about, okay, if I'm buying, do you have to put cash up front? Right. Yep. If we were going to go buy a building, we were going to have to put X amount of money down.
Yeah.
And ultimately I didn't even have to do the analysis because I knew we couldn't afford it.
Got it.
Right.
Got it.
So, like full disclosure, I'm not the guy to go do your crunch an NPV out. Like I could do it, but that's not my,
it's not
my strength.
Yeah. Cool.
My shtick is
that accounting?
Accounting, bro. I guess. It's not that I can't do it. One, I don't want to. Yeah.
Right.
If I have to, I'll do it. But it's not like my area of interest, I guess you could say.
Okay.
But like lease versus buy decisions. I'm going back. It was an inventory-driven business, and there was cash collection issues. So calculating cash gap. And then a lot on the purchasing side. So I was like, should I know what SKUs to purchase and what's turning more? So talking about inventory turnover and all that sort of stuff. And I was calculating things at a high level and identifying gaps, but I'm like, fuck, sorry, but
don't be sorry.
There's got to be
fuck.
Okay. Shit balls, cock. Sorry.
All right, we're back.
We're back. Sorry. Okay, so I was like, should I know this shit that I don't know?
Yeah.
So that's why I bounced and decided to go work under at Squish under a super gangster CFO. Yeah. So I moved there. I cleaned up a mess
to Squish.
To Squish, and Squish was still like startup vibes, but
yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I think I saw this publicly.
Yeah.
David's Tea went public. I have no idea if they're still public.
I think they are.
Is it the same?
If they're still. Well, you know what?
There's
an
affiliation there. I don't
know.
But I'm pretty sure there's some family members or some. I'm guessing. I have no idea.
Yeah, and I don't know what's private to disclose or not. But it's,
But I read this somewhere, and they were saying that David's Tea had to give cash over to Squish for I guess we'll have to be. It's tough with the startup.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to shit talk Squish. I'm just saying.
No. I mean, okay. So there's like a family, and that family was well off. And they are funding Squish, okay, separately from David's Tea.
Okay.
And then there was a decision, and I was just leaving, or I had just left at that point. There was a decision that David's Tea was going to buy Squish, and go under the umbrella of David's Tea.
Yeah.
And I don't know the details of it.
Okay.
And I don't know where things are at now.
Interesting.
I know Squish shut down at Fairview. I don't know what they do anymore.
So you started working. So you went to Squish.
Yeah.
You had a brief stint there. You're working underneath this gangster CFO. Okay, let's talk about that. What was cool about working under this? What did you end up learning? All the things you thought you were going to learn. Did you get that mentorship that you were looking for?
I want to say yes and no at the same time. so when I went in, what I liked about him was, shout out to Derek, by the way. What I liked about him is he was personable, sociable, but also super smart and experienced. So if I had questions, he would answer them, right? But we were both hella busy, right? So, he was the director of finance and administration, I think. So he was dealing with everything, right?
How many people at Squish? How many employees?
I mean, with retail, like everything,
Yeah.
I think when I was there, we were probably like 250, 300 or something.
Holy
like that.
shit! I didn't know it was that big.
Yeah, I mean, the head office was probably, again, about 25. I'm going to say 25 to 40 people max. I don't remember.
Okay. Interesting.
But it was, we had, when I was there, I think there was like 15 locations or something like that, including warehouse.
Okay.
Again, this is a long time ago, man, time flies. But anyway, where was I? So I when I interviewed at Zen, there was full office and all that sort of stuff, and I kind of shouted a little bit what they were doing. I'm like, oh man, these guys are like, they're switched on. They're very, very smart. So I'll be fine here.
Yeah.
So I made the move to Zen. That was in 2017 or 2018.
Okay.
And I went in on day one. By that time, I had both my dogs. So I have a Great Dane and a mini husky.
Okay.
And I had to feed them at lunch. So I went into the office. I met with Ryan. I did a bunch of stuff. I'm like, okay, I'm out at lunch. And
See you later.
See you later. Super cool, flexible. He's like, okay, cool. And I don't think I went back to the office. So
this you're talking about Squish. So you literally
no, Squish was gone. Now
Okay.
now I'm over at, so Ryan Lazanis was the founder of Zen.
Yeah.
Okay. And he hired me as the accounting team lead at Zen.
Okay.
Okay. So by this point, that's day one at Zen.
Got it.
So I go in, I get onboarded. We'll talk, like say it's an onboarding, a general
Yeah.
onboarding. Give me the idea of what's going on. Here's your work. Here are your clients. Cool. And I left at lunch, and then I never went back to the office except for a few times. Right. So moving into this remote work environment. So we were remote pre-pandemic.
How many people are at Zen Accounting?
Now we're 17 or going on probably 20.
And do you have equity in the company?
Yeah.
You have equity in the company. Got
okay.
it.
So I mean, fast forward, I guess. Now,
So yeah, we've gone all the way through, and we'll get to some stuff
we're
about
at,
EY and like forensic accounting stuff. But so basically,
Definitely.
like with Zen Accounting, let's stick on Zen Accounting.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Zen Accounting right now, so you do cloud accounting services.
Yeah.
You started working there, in, let's say 5 years ago, about that and stuff.
I did. Yeah.
So you're basically how does Zen Accounting help small business owners? What exactly do you guys do besides just, because the first time I heard about cloud accounting, I'm like, okay, well, interesting. There's QuickBooks you can get and have it either stored on your laptop or you can have it stored in the cloud. What's the difference? I've never used one of those things. So it's basically a program to help you do your taxes. That's what I think of when I see an accounting software. So what's the value add that Zen Accounting gives?
Well, most people don't want to do accounting. And
I'm one of those people.
Yeah, but okay, so you are working on your business,
Yes.
right? So you are trying to drive value for your business. You shouldn't be looking at the past unless it's in a report and someone's telling you this is what happened, and you can look into it.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't be doing all of that stuff because it's backwards looking. You
Yes.
should be looking at the now and the future, right? So Zen essentially helps with that, in that, okay, you're a startup, right? Or you're an entrepreneur, you come to me with your business, and it's twofold. I look at it from an internal perspective and an internal accounting perspective and external accounting perspective. So you come to me with your business, right? Zen provides bookkeeping, right? Payroll, accounts payable management, accounts receivable. Typically, we leave with our client because there's relationships to that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And then move up, call it virtual CFO, virtual controllership, generating those reports, budget to actual, variance analysis, all that sort of stuff.
And is this on like a subscription base? So let's say I'm a startup. I have, cash is tight. I have 5 employees, let's say, and so I would pay you guys what, $100 a month, $200 a month?
Yeah, it's subscription based. So basically, we get an idea, we do a deep dive and on discovery calls, and then we'll do tech demos. But the idea is that we get a full-blown understanding of the mechanics of your business, and then we assess, okay, how can we come in and help? And what we'll do is we'll put together a few different options at a few different price points, and we deliver. We don't bill by the hour. We bill on a fixed price basis, so you know what you're getting and you know what the result is.
So you help with regards, like you're basically almost a consultant.
Yes and no. So yes, what do you do right now for your books?
For my books right now, I don't like for bookkeeping. I have Hala, so she's like HR admin. She handles all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The CRM that we use keeps track of all that, and then we have EY as our main.
So that's your
accounting firm.
Okay.
The external accounting.
So
firm,
internal and okay. So
but the thing with them though, and this is probably the same thing. I don't like to call them for a lot of stuff because they bill me by the fucking hour, and it's so goddamn expensive.
That's right.
So a lot of times, I'm not going to call them.
Yeah.
And then we also have Intact. Intact, they're great in the sense that they give us a lot of advice on, hey, yes, we think you should try and do this. Hey, watch out. We don't think you should do this because of reason X, Y, Z. But I would like a little bit more help on the financial side of things. Hey, Curtis, I really don't think you should be spending this much money. Yeah. So, for example, I wish I had, I'll give you a perfect example. About 2 years ago, during the pandemic, we went through a huge hiring spree, okay?
Yeah.
I didn't do any fucking calculations. I should have done some calculations to actually see.
Oh
my God, it's the biggest expense, employees by far, and what a learning experience this was. And if it wasn't for, like, if we didn't have Intact as a partner, oh man, I would have been in some trouble. Because I didn't do any calculations. Long story short, we lost a lot of fucking money.
Yeah, well, outside of headcount and rent for you guys.
And leads.
Yeah. Okay. So you pay a lot.
Those are the three things.
The three biggest expenses.
Yeah.
So headcount is massive, and then I'm curious what you did try and figure out. But there's also taxes on top of what the salary is, right? So
the payroll tax and all that kind of stuff. So it's like we basically hired a bunch of people. We didn't grow as fast as I thought we were going to grow.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the payroll, going, oh my God, what have I done? Kind of just going. But had I had a consultation before that, going, hey man, okay, I get what you're doing. Have you crunch the numbers here, like really crunch the numbers?
So that's what we do. So is the person's name was Hala?
Hala, yes, she's right over there.
Okay,
yeah,
so that person is your internal resource.
Yes.
Okay, we act as that internal resource during the year. Okay, so you have a fiscal year, right?
Yep.
12-month period. So we act as that internal resource, and on a subscription base with a defined level of scope and service. So you're not gonna come knock on my door and speak to me and be like you have here, right?
Yeah.
That's not the alternative is you call me or we schedule a meeting, whatever. So that's on an internal basis where we're going to handle your books, we're going to handle your payroll, we're going to handle all your reports and all that sort of stuff. And then depending on the plan that you have, right? Obviously, the more value you add, the more money you're going to pay us, right? But we can act as if we're right there, right? As that internal resource, but we're not one brain. I think we're going to be 20 very, very shortly. You have a bunch of CPAs in the background. So if I'm your direct contact, but at Zen Accounting, and you ask me a question, NPV, right? Where I was like, I don't know. I'm going to go to someone who's better than me.
You guys have the resources to basically.
Yes, exactly. So when you're tapping into Zen, and I'm going to use this analogy, but when you're tapping into Zen, you're tapping into multiple brains. And I say to some potential clients, I'm like, have you ever watched American Gangster? And I'm like, we're like Blue Magic, where the product is higher quality because of the resources that we have, but we give it for a fraction of the price. Because
are more and more accounting firms coming up with this payment scheme in the sense that as opposed to charging you hourly and charging you $1 million an hour, it's kind of on a subscription basis?
Yeah, the game is getting a little bit, the market is getting flooded. Zen,
I guess also too, from your standpoint as a business owner, it's also a lot easier for you guys to make your projections, your cash flow projections, your revenue projections and stuff like that. If I have X amount of clients, the same thing in insurance. It's very easy to get revenue projections because of
correct. We operate on like we try and apply a SaaS model where we have ARR, MRR, so monthly recurring revenue, and therefore it's much easier to forecast. And like I'll give credit where credit is due. Ryan, who is the founder. So Zen turns 10 years old in March, and he started this along with, I think there's a couple other firms, and one of them I worked at. So I worked at Connect CPA. I did a stint between what I'm doing now. So I joined Zen, I left Zen to go work at Connect CPA, and then I I went to Boundless, and now I'm doing Zen. So we'll stay on the timeline. The market is getting convoluted. It's good to have these predictable things, right? Predictable revenue.
Sorry, I had to go to the bathroom really badly.
I hope it was a
quick one. It was it was fast.
Number one.
Yeah, it was number one. Okay, Zen accounting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were just talking off the record. Let's stick here. So you're working there, basically cloud accounting.
Yeah.
It's we'll call it the new way of doing accounting.
Yes, and you were asking me if a lot of firms are starting to do this model.
Yeah.
And the answer is yes, more and more. Zen Accounting was one of the first to do it, along with a few other players in the game.
Yeah.
Okay. And so now I'll break into what we were about
and
to
it's essentially, so just to make sure I'm understanding properly, it's essentially an accounting firm, just how you charge the client is a little bit different. But you essentially offered, generally speaking, the same services as a traditional accounting firm.
Correct.
Got it.
Correct, with a technological twist. So we can act as your internal resource during the year.
Yeah.
But then we don't audit or review. Right.
Okay.
So we only offer the shitty stuff, like the compilation,
yeah,
which is what most business owners need anyways.
Yeah.
So we become your external accountant at the end of the year because you don't require independence.
Got it.
Okay. So we offer that compilation, corporate tax return, sales.
So people, I'm a business owner. I just started my company. Yeah. I'm focused on selling the product. I'm completely lost with numbers. Zen Accounting, they'd be a great company to call.
Yep.
Hey man, my bookkeeping is an absolute fucking disaster. Can you help me, please?
Yeah, you get charged for that.
Of course.
But essentially, if you're looking to implement a bit more structure from a bookkeeping standpoint, and you want a bit more clarity and insight on your numbers, that combined with compliance, which you have no choice, you have to do that, right? Call us. And
that's XEN Accounting, Zen Accounting.
Yeah. Boom, marketing.
Great.
Yes, XEN Accounting.
So the founder ended up here. This is where we're at. So if you were just mentioning this, the founder ended up selling to I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah. So Ryan in 2018 sold to a large private equity group in Europe that dealt in high net worth individuals, funds, all that sort of stuff. And the head of M&A was trying to get into Canada, but two, into the cloud space. Okay, so he was a former partner at KPMG, super cool guy. And they were trying to get into that, into our space, so professional services. Okay, so it was a market segment that they had bought a few businesses around the world, and now it was time for them to come into Canada. So Ryan exited, and I took over as like the managing director of the business. So I put together a vision, mission, strategy statement or presentation, shot it over to the big guys in Europe, and at the same time they were going through an acquisition where the original owners, I think, were being bought out, something like that. Anyway, so there was a private equity group that bought out everything. And I mean, I don't have too much experience with private equity, but what they did was, okay, we just bought this massive portfolio, like with multiple jurisdictions around the world. There's a lot of fat that needs to be trimmed. So they went through this massive cost-cutting exercise, and they had a reputation. I only found out later they had a reputation of going in, slashing, flipping, and selling.
That's usually what they do.
Yeah. So that's what I've understood. Yeah. So now
they like to spot inefficiencies. Sometimes they go too much, but they like to, and also too, there's no emotion. It's zero emotion with this because they didn't build a business.
Yeah.
So whereas like a founder, there's an emotional connection to a founder. Like I have an emotional connection here. If we've never had to do this like mass layoffs or anything like that, but that would fucking kill me.
Yeah.
So, but they come in, it's not their business. They just bought it. No emotion.
Purely objective.
You're gone.
Looking at all the numbers and let's make profit, essentially. That's what it's all about.
And then they flip it, but you're absolutely right. They flip it back. They make 100, 200, 300% on their investment.
Ciao. And then they move on to the next one. And I mean, look, it is what it is. So, but I mean, it's unfortunate because, Ryan, super visionary guy, but we had stagnated the business while it was going through due diligence, and like we weren't pushing for growth. He wanted to keep things lean, as good as they are, because they were very good. So in order to sell and like not have any issues during the sale, okay? So that happened. When I put together my growth strategy, right, it fell on deaf ears because they were going through these cost-cutting strategies. So I wasn't allowed to, I mean, if in a business like this, you have to invest in people to grow.
Did
right?
you know that he was trying to sell it to private equity?
Yeah, he told me.
You did? Okay, so you knew
told me
about
full
this.
disclosure. I'm like,
Got
all
it.
right, it is what it is.
Cool.
Like,
Yeah.
cool,
Okay.
whatever.
Okay.
So they were going through, we didn't lose any headcount because we were a super lean, efficient business. We still are.
Yeah.
But they weren't allowing me to hire. I'm like, in order for us to grow.
The private equity was not allowing you to hire.
Correct.
Got it.
Because I'm like, we need capacity. We need to invest in these specific heads and all that sort of stuff. And you need to give us some marketing budget. And everything was zero, right? So you had to put together it was a very tough time for me. So like, and I'll give you an example. So I let it ride, whatever it is. You know, I was bringing in business.
They owned how much of the company?
100%.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they owned 100% of the company, and I took care of my staff, and I brought in business. I did what I could with the resources that I had, essentially, right? Not that it was easy, but the straw that broke the camel's back, I think, is the term.
Yep.
So
it's a good term.
It's tax season, so right around this time, like a few years ago, and our tax analyst quits. Can't take it anymore, right? And because it's hard, right? We're not in a business that's like it's tough, right? So couldn't take it anymore. Didn't like working for somebody who's no longer with the business, but I'm out. Okay, I understand. Right? Like we have a heart-to-heart. I get it. I totally get it. Things need to change. It's tough from the other side of the pond. It's tough, blah, 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 blah. So I accept the resignation. I prepare the request to replace this person within an hour of the resignation. Submit it to my boss. 1 week goes by. With follow-ups, I'm following up. 2 weeks go by. No answer. Finally, I'm like, I escalate it. I'm like, guys, it's been 3 weeks. It's tax season. I'm asking you to replace this person. It's the middle of tax. I need resources. Otherwise, we're going to have to see this mass exodus. Oh, and they act like, yeah, okay, I didn't know what was going on, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm done. I'm like, I started looking. I was already kind of like on, like, so I bounced.
From Zen Accounting?
From Zen.
Cool.
From Zen.
Okay.
Yeah. So I went to Connect CPA, which is what
I thought though that you were still associated with Zen Accounting.
I am now.
You are now.
Well, this is a story that I'm
Oh my God. Okay. Jesus.
Yeah, I got some meat on these bones.
Okay. So you got Connect CPA.
So Connect CPA, amazing firm.
Yeah.
I went over there as a COO.
Yeah.
To some degree, I acted like there's two co-founders, and I acted like as a kind of like a partner, I guess. You look at it as but I wasn't a partner, right? So I was in charge of ops, but also bringing in new clients and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
Connect CPA is probably themselves. I mean, we're talking about cloud accounting. So there's Zen Accounting. There's a few people out there, but Connect CPA and Live CA are two of those three, OGs, I guess, in the business, if you want to call it that. And there's maybe a few others, but so they're a big player in the game, in the space. And so acting as COO, not an easy gig either. There's a lot of, you're client facing. So if your clients are pissed, the problem goes to me if it's like a big enough problem, right? So bringing in clients is also closing sales. There's stress there. You want to do that as well. Fixing operational inefficiencies. HR, so our head of people was on mat leave, so HR fell on me, right? So firing, hiring, all that sort of stuff. Amazing work experience. So we're still on this timeline. So I'm like, I think 8-9 months in, and a former client of Zen reaches out to me to say, hey, I started this new venture. Can we talk about, maybe having Connect CPA become the firm, right? I'm like, yeah, sure. So we hop on this call, and this is Mauro, who's the CEO of Boundless Life. And we could talk about this. You ask me as many questions as you want. The business model is complex, very complex, and it's tough to put your head around it. If you're an accountant or a CPA, from a learning perspective, there's international tax, transfer pricing, bookkeeping, international business. You're setting up just a crazy amount of complexities. So I was like, listen, I don't think we at Connect CPA can handle this globally for you. But are you looking for a head of finance? Because the vision and the mission and the strategy of Boundless is it's just fantastic. What we're trying to do.
And I think, can you explain what Boundless Life is?
Yeah.
So from my understanding, it's basically an kind of Airbnb-ish. So you can go for, let's say, 3 months in a different country. You can work there. Well, if you're working remote, assuming, and you can bring your children with you as well, which I found that kind of weird, just because I'm like, people they take their kids out of school, and you're like, yeah, if the homeschool or stuff like that, interesting.
Yeah. I mean,
you'll be able to explain it better than I can, but
yeah, I'm not as good at pitching as Morrow is.
I didn't even know that this was like a marketplace. It's very interesting.
Well, we're creating this market, which is also crazy difficult. But we're also not that we're surprised. We knew that there was a lot of people out there that would be really into this, but we were surprised to see how many. Because
so cool,
Morrow was like, and I'll tell you the business. Morrow exited his business that was a client of Zen. Okay. He was like, okay, I'm going to go on sabbatical for like 1 year.
What was his business before?
So he was a marketplace for people coming into the country from outside of Canada and trying to set them up in a home or something like that. I can't remember exactly.
Okay.
I didn't handle their books. I just brought them in as a client. So where was I? He was like, how do I monetize the lifestyle I want to live? I want to travel around the world. I have kids. I need to, I'll work here and there.
Young kids, right?
Young kids. I think his kids are like, I think all below 7 or something like that. And he's like, how do I monetize this lifestyle? And he's entrepreneurial in nature.
Yeah.
So the concept is that it's Airbnb. There's a portion of which you can compare to Airbnb, but then there's also a portion where you can compare it to like WeWork. We're combining Airbnb, WeWork.
I thought about WeWork as well.
Yeah. So we call it the hub, the community hub, where it's a co-working space, but also, you'll have like yoga classes or a wine tasting at night or something like that. So
somewhere in Chile.
Well, that would be cool. Yeah. I mean, I don't think Chile's on the radar. But we did just announce Bali.
Okay.
So that's our next spot. So we take.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of like thinking about this. If I want to take like a month off and still work,
it's kind of.
I don't have kids.
Not yet.
But it's like that community mentality.
I mean, we can dive into this world, I suppose, of digital nomads. But we're catering towards digital nomads who have kids. So can you work from anywhere? Yes. Do you have kids? Yes. Do you want to travel? Yes. And do you want to have your kids getting educated at the same time, not by you, right? In a formal education system with curriculum and all that stuff. And that's essentially what we do. So,
and will you set them up with local schools? Like, what about
so we open up our own Boundless Education.
So it's all online.
No,
it's not online.
Not yet. It's coming. There
will
be an online
okay, so you'll have teachers there teaching a curriculum.
So I'll give you an idea.
Got it.
We got Portugal. We got
how many locations? Yeah, how many locations?
So
do you guys have?
So we're in Sintra in Portugal. We're on the island of Syros in Greece.
Okay.
And now we're in Pistoia, which is in Tuscany in Italy.
So 3 locations.
3 locations right now. 4th in July.
Is the teaching all done in English?
Yes.
Okay, all done in English.
But you also learn like local languages. There's these extracurricular activities that you can do and sign up for. So yeah, I mean, like that's our target market.
And how's the growth going for Boundless right now?
It's hyper growth. So I don't really want to talk numbers, but we went from 0 to
that's no good.
Yeah, but so we launched in February. So incorporated August of 2023. So 2021.
Yeah. So a year and a half ago, let's say, roughly.
So, and then, my talks coincided with the preparation for the first location launch. So I started there about a year ago, officially March, but I was like in discussions and monitoring everything in February. And we launched February 1 in Portugal. So $0 of revenue up until Feb 2022.
Yeah.
So we start there, and we by the end of December 2022, so fiscal year end, we had surpassed in excess of 1.5 million. So from 0 to 1.5, which I don't know what the definition of hypergrowth is, by the way, from a number.
I looked it up when we were talking the other day. I'm pretty sure it's 40%, I believe, year over year.
I don't know.
Or maybe it's 100.
Well, we went from 0 to
it's 40%. That's what 40%? The snippet says on Google.
Okay.
But I think that's wrong. I'm pretty sure it's 100. Anyways.
Maybe.
There's a lot of growth.
Yeah, a lot of growth, and it's super, super fast paced. So, I mean, it's invaluable experience.
It's kind of the same thing. There's this vacation that I went on called Backroads. And Backroads, what it started off, so it was just some dude. This is back in the 70s or 60s or something like that. He would just travel all around the world and stay at cool hotels, eat good food, and bike everywhere, like Tour de France biking, like the speed bikes.
Okay.
And I went on this trip. We went to California. I went with my dad. It was fucking gorgeous. And basically, they take you all these nice restaurants. They take you to the local places. You go on these beautiful, beautiful, beautiful biking trails.
Yeah.
Stay at a nice hotel. It's just a cool experience. You know what I mean? These experiences, like, they are getting more and more popular because they're fucking cool.
Yeah, I mean, you're discovering, similar to that, you're discovering a local culture, local language.
And you're still getting paid.
Yeah.
Like, you're still making your money, so you don't have to completely, because that's the thing. And this is why, I'm sure you guys did your research. You probably do have something here, because a lot of people, I did this during COVID. During COVID, I went down to Florida for 3 months. I'm like, fuck this, I'm out of here. I don't want to stay here. I'm not staying locked down for 3 months.
Yeah.
So I went to Florida. I worked for 3 months, and I had a blast.
Yeah. That's what people are. More and more people are, I think, with what happened with COVID, and maybe some people were discovering this before. Like I said, Zen was like all remote work. But if you have an internet connection, a good internet connection, you can work from wherever. Well, why not? And you have the ability to, then why not work from somewhere in the world and discover a culture and all that sort of stuff? If you like to travel, some people like to stay sedentary, whatever. But
cool. So that's what Boundless Life does.
Yeah, that's what we're all about. Cool. It's awesome. It's very complex. It's a hyper-growth startup.
And I guess each time, like, you're going to, like, new countries, like, you obviously know how to navigate tax laws and tax wordings better than...
Well, better than people on the... I took this role, one, because of what we're trying to do. So, like, we're trying to revolutionize education to a certain extent, right? And allow people to live seamlessly in a different country and allow them to slow travel. And you get... learning about different cultures.
Yeah, child education. It's like
needs
there's a big revamp coming in education. I went the other day to. They're done. Schools are. I really think they're done. I went the other day, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna kind of like throw the CJEP under the bus a little bit, but they're asking me about their insurance program.
Yeah.
It's a 9-month thing, and I'm like, guys, there's people getting their insurance, like, because you have to study, pass there's 3 exams to pass. This is in Quebec. Ontario, it's more or less the same thing. We have to study, pass the exams. If you really want to treat it as a crash course, it's going to take like a month and a half, 2 months. You're licensed, then you can start working in insurance. These guys, it takes 9 months to do the fucking course.
Yeah, that means...
And so I'm like, dude, there's people coming here as immigrants. They need to get paid. They can't take 9 months off. They need to work. And the private market, so people like us will come in. Basically, we'll train you, pay for everything. And the point I'm just trying to make overall is the education system, they're completely dying. They don't know what the hell to do with ChatGPT. A lot of it's too expensive, especially in the US. It's fucking ridiculous.
And people are learning, like, there's so much information out there.
Well, you have Google now. Yeah. They're giving up. You can get Google certified for, there's like coding, anyway, a couple things. And you don't have to be a genius to pass this.
No.
It's for free. It takes, I think it's 6 months, 4 or 6 months to basically pass the course load. You're Google certified, and you can go get a job in the real world at like $70,000 with no debt.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
which is another big thing.
Shit is changing.
So it's like Jordan Peterson, he's starting like this big thing. And the thing for him is basically he wants it to be recognized by businesses. I don't know the official term, but he wants it to be recognized. And his goal is they have 30 professors behind. He's basically really cool idea. And he wants to drop the price. So right now to get a degree on average, some are more, some are less. It's about $100,000. This is in the US, $100,000.
Oh wow!
And to get a degree, okay, a degree on average.
So sick.
And he wants to bring it down to $4,000.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's more, that's reasonable.
Yeah, education. It's like, and when you actually talk to Americans, there's a fair bit of the ones that paid for school themselves that got a degree that doesn't give you a good job outside.
Yeah.
I remember I was speaking to this girl. This is years ago. She goes, one of the biggest regrets of my life was going to college. She's like, I have $100,000. It's so sad.
Yes.
Like, I have $100,000 in debt. I can't get a job. And the job that I get, I'm like making, $40,000, $50,000 a year. And I have fucking,
it makes no sense.
I'm going to have this debt the rest of my life unless I go marry like a rich guy to help me get out of this.
I mean, I don't know enough about this really, but like, it's just capitalism? Like they're just trying to drive a profit at the end of the day? These schools.
What ended up happening for schools is it's like back in the 50s or the 60s. So basically what the government did, what the American government did, they said, hey, you can't, you don't, because back in the day you used to be able to work during the summer and pay for your education. And they came up and said, you know what, student, you shouldn't be working in the summer. You should be enjoying your summers. So you know what, we're going to give you a loan, or we're going to basically, so long story short, the government would guarantee the debt.
Okay.
So basically the students, so if I go to like a bank or something like that, I get a student loan to go pay for my education.
And if the student...
Well, it's guaranteed by the government.
Yeah.
So the bank's like, all right, how much you want? If you don't pay for it, the government's just going to pay for it. So the schools knew this. It just kept driving the price up and up and up and up and up because the banks are giving like how much you want. It's fucking guaranteed debt. And even if you declare bankruptcy, you can't take away your student debt.
Get out of here.
Yes, this is like a big thing in the U.S. So this is why like the debt forgiveness and all that, it's a whole mess. It's a complete mess. But all this to say, I'm going on a tangent myself now too. Fine. But back to like Boundless Life, it's the education system. There's a change coming.
Yes, and I think we're just
big change.
Yeah,
yes.
we're scratching the surface right now.
More employers. I don't look at if you have a CV, if you have a degree in anything. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're applying as an accountant, yes, you need an accounting degree. But for
it's like that now. But I mean, look, I value work ethic and ambition and drive more so than I do your technical capabilities. Now, if you're in a specific type of, I don't know, like hedging derivatives, like these really complex things, you need to be technically sound.
Yes.
But in what Zen, like we're focused on helping small businesses, right? So let's like, I'd rather you be really amazing at dealing with customer service and maybe a little bit weaker technically, but have the drive to learn and make up for your technical gaps.
Yep.
Right. And those are the profiles that I look at. Like, I don't give it, like, I was good at school, but I'm not like this super bookworm either, right? And
makes sense. Yeah. Here, I want to talk about when you're working at that big accounting firm and some of the forensic accounting.
Go for it.
The bad boys. So can you just talk about like some shit that you would see, and like if you can't name names, that's fine. But just some.
I'll precurse it.
People think. I want to preface it with this. People think that most corporations are, squeaky clean and they're these really good people, and some people don't. They think they're pieces of shit.
Correct.
But like
I'm one of those people.
Well, I think we just have a good understanding of how human nature works and basically how it's just all about money,
greed, money.
But dude, man, when you actually start like really getting into it, it's so, how do I say it? It's so greedy. They're so greedy.
It's a nasty world.
Yes. And this is why people that are just like so nice and all this stuff, oh, we should be nicer. It's like, that's not how the world works.
I had like an epiphany after I wrote my exam, and I was talking to you about goose.
Yeah.
And we were in Thailand after I wrote my professional exam, and we were talking, I don't know, like I had a heart to heart with him. I was like, my job is so negative because you see what
actually goes on.
What actually goes on, right?
Yeah.
So I worked at this company for just a year.
Okay.
And I think I touched maybe 4 or 5 engagements, whatever.
Okay.
I didn't want to stick around.
Was it too dark?
Yeah. One of the reasons is yes.
Really?
I was like, it's very negative to see. So for instance, one of the things that I was about to work on, There was an
And
engagement.
just question before you
Yeah.
get started. So like when you were going in to try and find the bad guys, these are like big publicly traded corporations. Like these are big companies.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Big-
you're basically
big
going
companies,
in,
but
show me all your books. I want to see all the numbers, and basically I have a feeling you're up to something. I want to look and see what you're up to.
part of what,
In short,
yes, I
that's
guess.
what a forensic accountant
Yeah, forensic audit or forensic accountant is looking
Yeah.
for the bad shit that
does.
people
Okay,
do.
cool, great.
I left because it was time for me to leave. There's a lot of bureaucracy, corporate red tape, politics,
Yeah, I'm sure.
and inner competition that I have no interest in
Yeah.
at all. Okay. I don't like people going behind each other's backs and all that bullshit. Like, that's not for me. If I don't like you, I'm going to tell you to your face.
Yeah.
But I like you. But
Thanks, Joey.
you know what I mean, though, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
like company politics, and it's everywhere. But like, I try and keep it to the minimum. At over there, it's tough.
Got it.
So I was on my way out, but just to give you an idea how about the negativity. So we were the partner that I was going to work for. He is like the hero and wants to go after these bad guys. But what the bad guy was, he was a doctor committing insurance fraud at the like one of the children's hospitals, and just doing things that you would not expect a doctor to be doing, right? And it comes down to what I guess there's good doctors and bad doctors. Doctors that are out there because they're greedy fucks.
There's good actors and bad actors
There's
in
anything,
Yeah.
anything,
Yeah,
right?
of
So
course.
like this guy was, I don't know, committing insurance fraud or something to the point where it's like, fuck, this is too dark for me, right? And I mean, one of the engagements. So there was a lot of,
What was he doing though with the?
I can't remember. Honestly,
Okay.
I didn't dive into it, but it had to do with a doctor in Toronto who was committing some form of fraud, and it was affecting people, right? Insurance fraud, some way, shape, or form. So I don't know enough. I didn't work on it.
Okay.
So when I was working there, I mean, there was a few interesting engagements that I touched on. Part of it was in the construction industry, and I mean, but it's part of doing business internationally. Like, so there's corporate fraud and bribery acts in Canada, in the U.S., and the U.K., but sometimes it's the way of doing business in other countries, right? So I was analyzing a lot of email threads and all that sort of stuff. A lot of in South America, in Africa, a lot of stuff goes on down there. And when you get interviewed as a person who's like a culprit or whatever, they're like, well, yeah, I bribed this guy. How else? How else are we supposed to work?
I'm not going to get the job if I don't bribe this guy.
Yeah. Like in South America, I remember seeing something like some guy got paid 16 million something and started his own brewery. It's crazy.
Wow.
It's crazy.
This was like one of the firms you were auditing bribed someone 16 million bucks.
Bribed a government official.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what happens? So let's say you catch the bribe. Then what?
I mean, at that point,
Like, do they get? Because I mean, if I'm
we're
a
trying
CEO
to generate
of a
a
company,
report, essentially, right?
but if I'm the CEO of a company and I just go like, let's say you catch the bribe. I want to do a project. I want to build a bridge in Zimbabwe, example.
Yeah.
And then you look through the books, you find out I bribed the local politician $10 million bucks.
Yep.
I mean, and then you're going to come to me and say, hey, you can't do that. You bribed so-and-so. I'm going to go, well, I wouldn't have gotten the job if I didn't bribe him $10 million. I had to bribe him. What happens to me?
You're the CEO?
Yeah.
Well, okay. So, I mean, from my perspective,
Besides blaming everyone else besides myself, what would like all the corporate CEOs do?
look, I mean, I think that I don't have any, I can't really comment on that from a legal perspective, but like what we would do as forensic accountants is we're hired to find and analyze information and generate a report. And said report could be used in a court of law to charge somebody against an act that, like the UK Fraud and Bribery Corruption Act, right? So you've broken these laws. This is I guess the potential sentence that you can get. And as the CEO of a company, you're liable.
So you go in, you give the report.
Yes, but forensic. So look, I'm not a forensic accountant. I studied my CFE. But I'm not practicing. Okay, but those who, so like a partner at the firm that I was at, could potentially have to represent their client in court, right?
Yeah.
Like as a witness or a professional testimony or something like that. There's a term for it, but it escapes me. But yeah, you have to back up your report, and you can get questioned on it in court, right? So, I mean, so that's one of them. Like in the construction industry, some interesting stuff. What came out of that?
Can you tell us the story without naming the names of what you were saying earlier about more or less how they were trying to schmooze you?
Yeah, yeah. So there was a company that bought another. So company A bought company B, and therefore company B sold to company A.
Yeah.
Company B, who sold the business, had an earn-out clause in which if company A hit X amount of revenue, then there would subsequently be an earn-out or a payout of X amount of dollars. I don't remember what.
To the company that sold.
To company B.
Yeah.
Right. Company B suspected, or were skeptical, suspected that there was some understatement of revenue according to...
No, company A.
Company B suspected that company A...
No, but company A is buying company B.
No. Yeah.
Fuck.
So, but company B has the earn-out. So,
Got it. Excuse me.
Right?
Sorry. Okay, yeah. Go.
So company B is suspicious and hires firm to go do a forensic audit on company A's revenue and making sure it adheres to GAAP or IFRS, which is the accounting standards. So we're doing our work, and like I told you earlier, this work is extremely granular. You're looking for a needle in the haystack, all that sort of stuff. The concept, however, is cool, and you're trying to do good, right? So we end up finding some weird stuff. So sideline that. The company A and their executives are also schmoozing and being very polite. And this is at the beginning, after they get aggressive, right?
Yeah.
When you know that you're onto them. So we get taken out to lunch. They're giving everything that they can, blah, 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 blah. So I like, oh, these guys are awesome.
They're whining and dining you.
Yeah. I'm like a junior guy, right? Like I'm like, oh, this is cool. I really like these guys, right? And that's what they're trying to get you.
Of course,
that's what they're trying.
Of course, yeah.
The senior manager, who was like rough around the edges, is no bullshit. He's like,
He picked up on this right away.
Yeah. He's doesn't fuck around. And now he's gone, but he's got his own firm. He calls up the partner from one of the big four, who are the financial statement auditors, and they're like, so he's like, hey, Bob, did you know that your client is understating revenues according to blah, 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 by this amount? And then click, right? Like the guy hangs up. So the answer was probably he knew, right? But, and look, I have a tainted view of audit. And I'm not speaking on behalf of any other CPA, just my own opinion. If you're if company A is paying this big firm to do their financial statement audit, like, I don't know, $100,000 a year, and myself as a firm, I have mouths to feed, like, you know what I mean? Like, I got to pay my people. I got to run my own business. If someone says, hey, can you let this slide? A lot of the time, this sort of stuff is like, okay, right? Not everybody's like that. Course. Not everybody's like that, okay?
But this is like a conversation we were having earlier. I love talking about this kind of stuff. And just when we talk
I might get in trouble for this, by the way.
We're not naming names. Yeah. We're not going to say, this is just, this is the way it works.
Yes.
And it's the same thing in 2008, like what I said earlier, with the rating agencies. So for those of you that don't know, during the big 2008 financial crisis, the banks on Wall Street were paying off the rating agencies. So the agencies that basically... they give a rating. So AAA rating is the highest. I think B or C is the lowest, something like that. Mm-hmm. But basically, so it's saying if it's a AAA rated stock, saying, hey, this stock is really safe. You can buy it. It's a safe investment. And they were rating all the stocks. They were rating a pile of dog shit AAA. And these banks were just bribing them.
The Big Short and like what a great movie.
It's an excellent movie.
And I highly recommend watching it.
And but it's the same thing. It's kind of like
it is
for in accounting, and it's like one of my friends, and she told me basically her boss came up to her. She was doing an audit for a company, and the boss just walked up to her and said, "Make it work." In other words,
I've had that happen too. And
have you ever had it happen to a point where it was just completely offside and you had to go, hey, I'm really not comfortable making this work. There's something going on here with these books. These numbers don't make any sense. Because then, because I feel like this would also exist.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm being a bit conspiratorial, but not really. I feel like it would also exist. I bet you anything. There's people on the inside of these big accounting firms that are, I don't want to say on payroll, but they're getting paid off by other companies to make sure that they pass the audits.
Oh,
it's got to exist.
Okay, so that I've seen plenty. That I haven't seen.
Okay,
but I'm not saying it's not possible.
It's the same thing as like organized crime infiltrating the cops. It's kind of the same idea.
Anything is possible, and I mean, you can also just bake it into your audit fees potentially. Like I'm skeptic by nature.
Same. I'm the same way.
And actually, CPAs are taught to be skeptic.
Yeah.
You have to have a level of professional skepticism to ask questions and all that sort of stuff. I've never been put to the point. So there are. Look, it's a laws-based
practice.
Like laws-based practice. Like accounting is there are areas of gray where you can make a decision whether to expense or capitalize something, and there are professional estimates and all that sort of stuff. So I personally have never been pushed to the point where I was uncomfortable, because in my assessment of the rules that are in place, it's not too far-fetched to go down the road that we were asked to go down, I guess, if you want to put it that way. So it's like, okay, well, here are the rules. Here are the case facts in an audit, right? And it's like, okay, well, I'm arguing this. Is it completely batshit crazy? If the answer is no, then it's okay. Okay, so document. Now, at the end of the day, as an auditor, you'll document all that stuff. The financial statements will get submitted. It goes out to the users of the financial statement, so the financial statement readers. You could get, and auditors have insurance, like liability insurance, because you could get sued.
Errors and omissions
right?
insurance.
Yeah, exactly. So
KBD provides errors and omissions insurance, by the way.
Good to know. Good to know. I'm never going back into audit, but that is good to know. So look, at the end of the day, my opinion about all this stuff is it's all about the money. So if you're paying me as an auditor to do your books, and there's like something that's like, be reasonable. Let's not commit millions of dollars. Maybe I'm going to go the route of letting it slide, and that's what I came upon in that in that investigation. I guess
it's kind of like the same thing as, and there's these big companies that do this. I forget exactly the exact situation, but let's take Netflix for example. So Netflix, I believe they paid Barack Obama before he had produced anything or been involved in anything to do with movie production.
Yeah,
they paid him $35 or $40 million, but it's kind of like it's a legal bribe.
What did they pay him for?
For the movie production that he was going to do.
Okay.
And so, but I believe, man, I got to get this story. It was basically, I believe he was still, Joey, can you kind of check that out? I'm not sure if he was still an acting president when he was getting paid, but just stuff like that. It's like you said, it's all about the money. And when you're paying people like that, they're essentially asking for special favors.
Yeah.
And I bet you anything, they're going to get them too. So it's the same thing in politics today, like for American politics. Not to get into politics, but like how it works is
lobbyists
the corporations have their lobbyists. They lobby. They pay money to basically change laws.
Yeah, that's a road. Like I don't. Yeah. You never know. When you know, and this is the conversation I was having with Goose. When you know what's going on and you follow the money, and we could go down very dark roads here, but like let's not.
What's the darkest you've ever seen when you followed the money?
The darkest?
Yeah.
I mean, on the okay. Maybe this is probably the darkest, I guess. Generally speaking, my view on humanity became a little bit darker because of the things that I saw. And I was like, fucking people are rats, right? Like, don't always believe what you hear, and like and actually ask probing questions and question and have critical thinking. Don't always take it at face value. And
I couldn't agree more.
And like, this is the opinion I have on humanity, unfortunately. And that part of my life, that's why I got out. I was like, fuck, like I don't like humans, right? Like you're always taught like, oh, they're so positivity, blah, blah, blah. Bullshit. Follow the money. So I think the tough, one of the tough ones was I was flying between This is one of the reasons why I left that company. There was because of the politics. Sorry. So flying between Mississauga and Halifax, and we're doing an audit on an airline. Okay, so there was some odd activity with I think us in the purchasing department at an airline, where, and I'm going to try and remember this, but a son and a father were committing fraud on purchase order fraud of some sort, and selling faulty parts back to this airline for crazy margins. And the darkest part about that is that these guys are all in it. It's about the money, but two, I mean, hopefully there's quality control and all that sort of stuff on the parts.
Faulty parts.
So
not just used parts. Faulty parts.
Faulty, not working, cheap. So if a plane crashes, these guys don't give a shit, right? They made their money. Okay, whatever, X amount of people die, I guess. But that to me was like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
So that's why my view is a little bit I've flipped, and I'm a little bit more positive, but I can always go and remember what the things I've worked on. So these guys, again, greed, money, and not thinking about what the impact of their actions could cause. So
people do really weird things, man. When it comes down to greed and wanting to get stuff, and man, it's
indeed.
Weird.
Yeah, and
Well, you know what? I question myself sometimes too. Would I ever do something like that? If you ask yourself honestly, for all the money that you put, if you were to put all that money in front of me, I hope I wouldn't do it.
It's
it's very easy to say. It's kind of like the same thing as someone goes, okay, everyone here, if you go into a classroom, you go, everyone here, raise your hand if you think you'd be part of the Nazis back in the 1940s or late 1930s.
Yeah.
Obviously, no one's going to raise their hand.
Yeah.
And it's so you really think everyone, let's say it's 1,000 people in there. You really think all 1,000 of you would never have joined the Nazi party to basically, kill the Jews? And they'll be like, no, I would never do something like that. And it's the majority of you would actually. And it's just, the point I'm trying to make is human nature can be very
the mind
strange.
Is very easy to get manipulated as well. Joseph Goebbels was I don't know if I'm pronouncing it properly, but a master. I took a propaganda course.
Yeah.
Did you take it at Concordia?
I did. I did. Yeah. Mastermind of propaganda.
Dude, but that course made me, even though I just took it to get the A+, I didn't realize how much of an impact it had on the reason why you should be a critical thinker and ask questions and just don't take everything at face value. So yeah, I mean, I argued some interesting stuff on my paper, but anybody can craft a plan and a strategy, just like a business plan. You can craft a propaganda plan and a marketing strategy.
Propaganda works, and this is why people don't even realize it. I mean, you can get convinced of basically anything. And this is why, and especially today,
social media with the algorithms and all that stuff.
But especially today with I always tell people, look at legacy media. They're all full of shit, whether left or right.
Who's legacy media?
I'm talking CNN, MSNBC, Fox. They're all the same.
All of them full of shit.
They're all full of shit.
Yeah.
But they still have a lot of influence on society. It's crazy.
Of course.
They can shape your ideas. And back to what you're saying, with Goebbels, he was very good. That's what propaganda does. It's going to shape your ideas. It's going to shape your thoughts. Mm-hmm. And you should not give up your rights for when it comes to stuff like that. When the government right now, they're trying to pass these laws where the Canadian government wants to or the CRTC, through the CRTC, they want to regulate your feed on YouTube. Yeah. So what you're basically allowed to see on YouTube. And they're going to be the ones who are going to deem if it's Canadian enough for you to watch it. It's basically just going to be them shoving CBC down your throat.
Insanity.
Yeah. So if I can't watch CBC for more than 5 seconds. I have to change channel.
I don't watch the news anymore because, again, I tried to put a more positive spin.
Same.
I follow financial news and all that sort of stuff, but like
I'm just a podcast guy now.
yeah, and that's a good idea because you hear it's like real people.
But to your point, it's like you have to ask questions. You have to like.
They also have their ideologies, though.
Of course,
you know what I mean?
of course. But and this is why, like, you have to critical think. And unfortunately, we're at a point now, I find, with media where we're at. Unfortunately, you can't just watch one source. You have to be smart enough. You have to watch multiple sources who have different opinions, gather the information, make the thought process yourself, and then come up with your opinion.
I just wonder if they're teaching kids how to critically think, and that's
dude, that's like the education system.
Yeah.
But that ties back into like what you were talking about earlier. Yeah. That's another reason why there's a lot of stuff in these schools that parents are not okay. Not the other day. This is before the end of the year. He works in insurance as well. He comes up to me. He's got 3 or 4 daughters, and one of his daughters was coming home from school. She couldn't sleep. She was having like anxiety attacks. He goes, "What the hell's wrong? Like, are you okay? What's going on at school?" The teacher was scaring the living hell out of her to the point about climate change, to the point where this kid couldn't sleep. She couldn't go home and sleep. Look, I'm not saying climate change isn't real. Like, it had nothing to do with that. But what I'm saying is, it's gotten to the point where we're at the point now where like the education system, they're brainwashing kids to a point. Look, it's important. We have to be realistic about a lot of things. Like we're not at a point now. Climate change, 100%, it's important. I recognize the fact. I work in insurance. There's more catastrophic losses year after year. Yeah. You can't look at the data. That's what's happening. The world is warming.
It's supposed to be much colder right now.
Yeah. But we also have to come up with reasonable ways to basically transition to green energy. And by Elon Musk himself, he said, it's like, we can't just turn off the oils. Like, we can't stop using oil tomorrow. The world would end.
I read Bill Gates' book about climate disaster or something like that. And if we can't produce clean electricity, then because a lot of electricity is based off of using coal and all that sort of stuff. Right?
Yeah.
So, okay, well, if coal's bad and everyone wants to go electric, but we have to produce coal, which impacts the atmosphere, and I'm not a climate expert or anything like that. Well, if you can't produce clean electricity, then what's the point in going electric anyways? So I think what we need to do, you can't scare the shit out of kids.
No,
you have to you have to educate them in a different way. I mean, make them better people, make them more conscious about what they're doing and all that sort of stuff. But don't say the world's going to end.
I agree, and like people don't realize too. It's like if you look at an electric car. I love electric cars, by the way. I love Teslas. They're very nice.
Are they?
I don't have one, but I really like them.
Okay.
But people go, yeah, I'm helping the environment. Okay, yeah. But if you actually
we have clean electricity here, though. If I think
it's it's a lot cleaner than oil or coal,
right?
Yeah, hydro. But that still fucks up environments. It does. Look, 100%. At the end of the day, if you're extracting energy, unless it's nuclear, there's going to be wind. I think there's going to be. You're going to basically
fuck something up.
Yeah, you're producing waste. Yeah. That's going to happen. But how do you think those batteries are made? You got to mine all the lithium. Mm-hmm. Well, mining is not very good for the environment either. What do you do with the batteries once they're done? Where are you going to throw it? There's all these things that people, they don't really think things through. I guess all I would try to say is critical thought.
Yes.
And a lot of times you're being fed a narrative that is bullshit. And a lot of people feel this way. This is why there's such a rise in podcasts. People don't trust the legacy media anymore. Mm-hmm. They don't want to listen to them anymore. Stop telling me how to think. Yeah, I don't like this.
You can't just swallow stuff and expect it to be true. And I think more and more people are losing that ability to critically think.
I would agree, but I think there's also, there's the same, if 50% of them kind of just take whatever they're told at face value and they go, oh, well, okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
There's a whole other crew of people, such as you and me that go, hold on. Just because maybe it's because we're naturally skeptical and stuff like that. But
maybe what I hope is that the generations coming up, there's a lot of distractions, and I think more distractions than we probably had when we were kids.
I would totally agree.
And are those distractions, I don't want to go off like sound like I'm batshit crazy here, but are those distractions going to impact their ability as professionals, as adults, and all that sort of stuff, and in turn impact the world in a negative fashion? I don't know.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, because everyone's
going
on.
To be interesting.
I mean, no disrespect to TikTok and all that stuff. I heard there's actually a good side of TikTok in terms of education and all that sort of stuff.
I'm on TikTok, baby.
Are you? Yeah, I've been told to get on, and I think there's like an educational part.
Well,
of
the
it.
only thing with TikTok is like if you go on, it's real easy to go down the bad hole. And I looked the other day at how many hours I was on TikTok last week.
Yeah,
I guess.
I don't know. I don't know.
7 hours.
Oh, I was gonna say 3.
It's an hour a day.
To go back to the Obama point.
Yeah. Obama. Yeah.
Congress didn't pay him until 2018. That was the deal wasn't written.
Okay, fair.
His company.
And he stopped being the president.
2016.
Okay, so he couldn't accept payment. Did he have? Was the agreement in place?
The agreement wasn't in place till in 2018.
Okay.
And then
Was not okay. So the agreement
wasn't struck till 2018.
Okay.
got it.
And
Okay.
I don't think any money was being exchanged till 2018.
Doesn't mean
The
that.
production company was founded. The talks were probably happening.
So my
Yeah.
my skepticism says they were probably
Your skepticism senses.
Spidey
Your
sense.
spidey
you know?
senses are tingling. Yeah.
I mean,
like,
look, TikTok. I mean, I'm not on it. I am on Instagram, and the stuff that I scroll through when I go to the washroom is like garbage. It's just garbage, and
it's just girls' butts.
girls' butts.
Funny stuff.
I get like I get a lot of. I mean, all I watch is sports, right? So
I watch a lot of sports
So
too,
there's
yeah.
a lot of sports stuff.
Yeah.
There's some funny stuff too, but I mean, I wouldn't use it to educate myself.
No.
And I just wonder if kids are just whoever humanity just injecting this garbage while other bad shit happens around the world, and everyone's oblivious and living in this like I don't know, alternative reality.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with phones and iPads. I mean, at my high school, so I went to every year I go to this charity event.
Yeah.
And so there's a teacher, I graduated high school 2006, not that long ago. And I go, what are the kids like now? He goes, Curtis, completely different. I go, really? How so? He said, first of all, they all have iPads. And so at lunch, they all sit in the corridor, in the hallway, and they're all just on their iPads all day. Texting, playing games, watching videos, watching Netflix.
Social
interaction is like out the window.
It's nuts. Yeah, to kind of plug quickly the accounting and all that sort of stuff. Like when it goes away, it will go away. Like the bookkeeping and things are going to get automated. Yeah. The people who are going to be successful are the ones who are able to interact, have empathy. What's it called? Emotional intelligence and all that sort of stuff. That's where people are going to be successful, because if you take away the detail work and it goes to a robot, then what's left? There's still going to be human judgment, but you're going to at the highest level, people are going to want to have a human-to-human interaction.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So and these kids who are not socializing, well, I don't want to say properly, because like who am I? But
yeah, we don't have kids. But
yeah, we don't have kids. One, I'm not a behavioral specialist or anything like that. But if you're like this all day and you're not looking eye to eye to somebody, and you're not like, I don't know what you're going to become. You're going to be like this all the time. I don't know.
No, I agree.
But it's just to cap off, like I spent from 2017 or 18, I was remote and taking meetings on Zoom and Google and not doing in-person meetings. So pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
And the first human sort of meeting that I had with either a client or staff, and I like to think I'm relatively sociable. I went into that meeting and I was like, whew. And I had trouble staring at your eyes, even though before that it was never an issue. So like,
I guess because you were just so
you're used to it's
not having that interaction.
It does affect you. So I'm curious.
Humans are built to be around other humans.
That's
just the way we're built.
Yeah.
And so it's normal. If you're not around other people, you're gonna go fucking crazy.
Yeah. And to go from this remote environment. So what I've done now since we've acquired Zen is like I want to do a hybrid of what we're typically doing or have done. Is like, okay, not necessarily all meetings have to be remote and on Zoom or Google Meet. Let's do a hybrid. If you want to meet me, obviously if you're in Toronto or in Vancouver or whatever, fine. We'll do a remote meeting. Yeah. And but hey, I'm gonna fly across the country and see you guys like once a year. But like next week, I have a meeting in person, right? And normally, that's not how it would go. So I'm trying to bring back like this hybrid mix of remote versus non-remote, so that I keep up that human interaction side of things.
Apparently, all the guys there was a bunch of big bankers during COVID and stuff, and when you weren't supposed to be traveling, whatever the rules were, they were off going to meet face to face and closing deals. And a lot of them said afterwards, they go, yeah, I was no fucking way I was staying at home and doing it over the computer. I had to make these deals. I was going to meet them in person, and I was closing the deals.
Go ahead.
But no, that's pretty much it.
It's very interesting, man. I'm telling you, like I forgot because I had been remote for like 5 years, right, before I joined Boundless. And when I joined Boundless, I flew over to Portugal and got to know the team and all that sort of stuff. And I told my boss, I'm like, being remote for 5 years, I completely forgot how much of an impact and how crazy how quick it is to create a bond with a human and all that sort of stuff. It's like so important to create a relationship. And I've worked with them for 12 months, and I've created relationships that I would have never dreamed of. You know what I mean? That in such a short time.
And relationships that you never would have made if you didn't go see them in person.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
This is why I really believe too, for right now, one of the main reasons why there's being like the great resignation, or a lot of people are switching jobs more easily. If you're working 100% remote, you have no emotional connection with the company. You don't know anyone there. You don't hang out with anyone there. It's way easier for you to leave because there's no emotional attachment. And I think that's one reason why employee retention for employers, so people like myself, I don't like when people work 100% from home. And it's, there's some people that want it, and we try not to give it. Not because I'm trying to be a mean guy.
No, you want to create.
I want a good culture at the office.
Yes,
it's like we're a hybrid. You want to work from home sometimes, no problem. But I want you to be in the office. I want to have that sense of camaraderie. We're a team. We're trying to build something here. And I think that
less trends. It's if you look, Zen is fully remote because we're across the country, right? But we're having a retreat in mid-March, right, where everyone's coming in, and that allows people. It becomes less transactional, right? If you're always remote, you're not creating relationships and all that sort of stuff. It's a transaction. It's like, okay, well, if somebody offers me 10 grand more,
you're gone.
It's a transaction. I'm out.
You're gone,
right?
Yeah,
so if you don't have that stickiness,
because they're gonna treat you the same as you're treating them, probably, and they just got an extra 10 grand.
Correct. So culture is super important, and that I agree with you completely on that. The Great Resignation side of things. Yeah.
Anything else you want to touch on before I'm getting really hot? Anything else you want to touch on before we get out of here? Check out the paper. Yeah, he brought his notes.
I think
we covered it all.
Yeah.
How long have we been going for, Joey?
Almost 2 hours.
2 hours, baby. Yeah. Time flies when you're having fun, huh?
I think I might be late for a meeting.
Yeah.
Give me a second.
So we'll end it up here.
Okay. Well, we can always talk about if ever you want a second appearance. I know there was a couple of things that we were going to discuss, like venture capital, Series A, B, C, all that stuff.
We'll do that. We'll do that next time.
And then profit and loss and balance sheet.
We'll do it in the new studio.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We're gonna move it into the playroom where.
And longest drive.
Yeah. Each time we answer a question, we'll just hit we'll have to hit a drive.
Yeah. So I'm happy to go a little bit more technical, I suppose, if ever I'm welcome back.
I feel like that would go well in like a nice, like maybe a shorter form. Like you come in, half an hour, bang. All right. If you're a business owner and you're like, want to know about accounting, number 1, call Zen Accounting. Number 2, this is what you need to know. Bang, 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 bang. All the basic stuff. Yeah. Not overly complicated, because then you'll just complicate them. And
I think with two dudes who like to go off and talk about shit, it's a recipe for
just tangents. Well, Joey, I appreciate it. So Joey, once again, Zen Accounting, Boundless Life.
Yes.
If you guys like the podcast, feel free to subscribe. Feel free to like it. Feel free to share this with one of your friends. And feel free to comment. Did I say comment? I think I said feel free to comment. Anyways,
I don't know if you did, but feel free to comment.
Yeah. But thanks so much, man. And
thank you. Appreciate it.
We'll see you again.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was. Thanks.
Cool. Awesome.